right.
We are now live.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee on Comprehensive Job Creation Plan. I'm Paul Krikorian, Chair of the committee. I'm joined by my colleague, Councilmember Bob Blumenfield, and we're ready to begin today's meeting. So why don't we begin with any public comment that we may have on agenda items, as well as general public comment. So do we have anybody on the line yet for public comment?
Mr. Chair, there are 3 speakers on the queue.
All right, why don't we go ahead and read out the contact information for providing public comment, and then we'll go ahead and begin taking those speakers.
Thank you. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-655-3266. Then press pound. Press pound again when prompted for a participant ID. Once admitted to the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Very good. Thank you. So we will go ahead and take both agenda item and general public comment. Actually, this is a special meeting?
That's correct.
Okay, so we will not be taking general public comment. We'll only be taking comment on today's agenda items. So we'll provide 2 minutes of time to each speaker to speak on a total agenda items, 1 minute per item. So let's go ahead and take our first speaker.
Please state your name and what item you'd like to speak on.
William R. Goat, the Armenian Goat, all items. All right, assholes. Now, as you know, we're not really doing very well in the jobs department, are we? Now, as you know, Mr. Spindler, my friend, he drives an Uber, and now because of you, you filthy Armenian, they've all been considered employees. Well, that means Uber and Lyft may leave California. How many jobs are we going to lose now? What are we going to do with all the unemployed? That's what we need to hear from the committee today. And Bob Blumenfield seconds, and Marquisi even seconds. So we have to do the duty necessary. Now, who do we trust with jobs? Do we trust Herb Wesson? No.
Mr. Spindler, speak to the specific agenda items that we have on the agenda, or you'll be ruled out of order. Speak to the agenda items, please.
I know. Okay, Mr. Goat, please follow the chair's instructions. Okay, asshole. So we have 3 items. Now, those 3 items involve reports. We're not really doing anything on action community items. They're just going to be mere reports to receive and file. Nobody's going to read them. No assholes are going to care about it. So, on behalf of H-Rag and the fat fucking wife,
okay, you're out of order. You're speaking off topic, so your time has expired. Thank you, Mr. Spindler. Next speaker, please.
Please state your name and what item you'd like to speak on.
All items. I don't get to speak on public comment. 2
Mr.
minutes,
Herman, you will
my
speak
moron.
to the agenda items, or you'll be ruled out of order. Go ahead.
Regarding the reports on job creation, Miss Miller of the homelessness, according to Eric Garcetti, failed to provide adequate housing for homeless people, so she took a dump and quit. Why? Well, because the action to receive and file the reports do not calculate to what Ben Carson has been saying about homelessness, niggers. That people need to get off the sidewalk and straight. Even the honorable judge made those recommendations.
Okay, you're not on topic. This is your only warning. Speak to the agenda item. Okay, you're done. Time is expired. You're disrupting the meeting. Time is expired. Next speaker, please.
Please state your name and what item you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, hi, Daniel Gus on all items. I just wanted to point out that I feel that the city is, there's a disconnect between the very noble efforts of this committee trying to, enhance and create jobs. But I saw the other day a list of massive salary increases for city council employees, and I think that sends the public a conflicting message that the city, while trying to nobly, and I completely support the efforts to create new jobs and sustainable jobs, where people can live, and these outrageous raises that I've seen of city council employees, I just ask that you keep that in mind, the public perception of what the city is proposing or exploring versus what it's doing with its own employees. That's all I had to say. Thanks for letting me get it in. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gus. Next speaker, please.
Please state your name and what item you'd like to speak on. Please state your name and what item you'd like to speak on.
Go ahead, speaker. Go ahead, speaker. Speaker, go ahead, please. All right, we'll need to take the next speaker, please.
Mr. Chair, there are no further speakers in the queue.
Very good. That closes comment on all agenda items. Let's go ahead and proceed with agenda item number 1, please.
Mr. Chair, Clay McCarter with the CLA. Item number 1 is a Bureau of Contract Administration report relative to the fiscal year 18-19 Local Business Enterprise Local Business Preference Program.
Very good. And who will be reporting on this item?
Good afternoon. This is Jedi Zones with the Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me. This report is for fiscal year 2018 and 19. In that year, there were a total of 3,789 projects awarded. Of that, 377 were awarded to companies certified as a local business enterprise. And of those, 25 projects were awarded as a result of the local business preference program. The total cost to the city for awarding to local businesses comes to $4,869,909. I'd like to point out that these numbers are up from last year. And as a side note, BCA is currently working with the city attorney on combining and revising the local business preference program to include small local businesses as well as transitional job employers as instructed by our council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Blumenfield, do you have questions on this report?
Yeah, couple things. The 4.89, the cost, what exactly does that represent? Is it the cost of running the administrative cost? Is there an opportunity cost when you award to a small business that had a lower or a higher dollar value than the lowest bidder, or what is the cost representing?
The cost represents the difference of selecting a second lowest bidder over a lower bidder because they are a local business enterprise.
So of the 25 ones that were chosen, you spread that 4.8 million over those different contracts. And as a percentage of the contract, what is it usually about, the difference?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I'm just trying to understand what it's costing us in terms of as a percentage of the, are most of these contracts like 2% more, 10% more, 20% more? And I ask that also to understand, as we scale this, will the costs increase be linear, or will it be exponential?
I believe the percentage is 0.25%, but I would have to confirm and get back to you. As in regards to whether it will increase, are you saying that as a result of us revising the?
Yeah, well, and as we scale, I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of the. I mean, this is a really good thing, and we're trying to get. We want to get more local businesses, and I'm just trying to understand the cost, and also the report indicates that the info comes from departments that provided info to BCA. Did all the departments provide the info? Are we missing data?
The request did go to 40 different departments. I don't have the number to how many responded, but I don't believe all have responded, and I believe there are 3 departments who are exempt from this.
Okay, well, not knowing how many didn't respond, it's hard to know how much data is missing. Do you have a sense that we're missing a lot of data? I mean, or did the ones that not respond, they don't really have contracts, or that it makes it hard to understand if this is what this data is worth?
I can say that compared to the previous years, it hasn't changed too much. So I think it's most of the 40 departments that have responded.
So like 80%, 90%, or are we talking 51%?
I apologize. I don't have the exact number, and I would have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just received information. All departments have responded.
Well, yeah. Well, that's great, because the report was confusing because it said, of those who were responding. So that's really good news. And then lastly, and this is more a question for the city attorney, when do you think the council can expect to see the ordinances necessary to implement the changes that we made in June? Do we have a timeline on that, or is the city attorney able to tell us that?
Is there anyone on the line who can provide an answer to Mr. Blumenfield on that? Doesn't appear so.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, we did some good work in June, and we'd like to see it happen.
Let me, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Linda McLinchy with the Bureau of Contract Administration. We have been working with city attorney. We are close to completing our revised draft of the ordinance, as Sophie mentioned, and we're also working on rules and regulations. We anticipate we should be able to be reporting back with regards to the revised ordinance in the next few months.
Okay, great.
Great. Anything else, Mr. Bloomfield?
Nope.
So it seems to me that one of the big pieces of data that we're not capturing with these reports is local jobs created. And I wonder if there is some way that we can do that, because, of course, the whole objective here, there's multiple objectives of incentivizing local business procurement. One is to keep money in the local economy, the taxpayers' money in the local economy. Another is to enhance the city's potential to receive tax revenues for those expenditures. And the third, and probably the most important, certainly for this committee's jurisdiction, is the creation or support of local jobs. So when we're looking at the cost of incentivization of local businesses, I think it's important that we also see the benefit of it. And we don't really have that before us. So is there any way that we can reliably capture at least some good estimate of of the local jobs creation benefit of contracting locally?
That might be difficult. We can certainly capture for the local business preference the dollars and the number of local businesses that work on our contracts, but what that turns into in terms of local jobs created, or I suppose that might depend on whether or not that you want to count additional hires as a result of those contracts as being jobs created. The ordinance itself does not currently require any sort of reporting or collecting of data with that regard.
Yeah, I mean, if this is a construction procurement, that's pretty easy to do. I mean, in every construction project that we do, there's an estimate of jobs created. If it's procurement of goods or even services would probably be pretty easy too. A procurement of goods might be a little bit more challenging. If we're buying, paper notepads or pens or something like that, it's a little harder to extrapolate how many jobs that creates. But as we move forward with the revised and expanded programs and consolidated programs, I think that some vehicle by which we can capture that or at least estimate it is going to be pretty important for us in evaluating what the best policy approaches are going to be. So I don't need any further answer on that at this point, but I just want to throw that concept out there because I think it's, we have launched a number of different programs, both in procurement and in tax incentivization to encourage local businesses. And, what the best program is and what the best expenditure of money is really depends on which is creating the most jobs per dollar expended. And so somehow we're going to need to assess that. With regard to all of the changes that are coming soon with LA Bavin, with Compete for LA and all the other efforts that we're making to try to encourage more local business participation, what kind of adjustments are going to be necessary to ensure that these additional businesses are participating in city contracting? What sorts of changes to the program might be suggested by the changes in LA Bavin?
So we are working with the Chief Procurement Officer as well as ITA, and we are working so that the new Bavin, the Compete for LA, all of it coincides and will work with the new ordinance as well.
Okay. So when we first initiated the local preference ordinance, one of the challenges that became very apparent was that a lot of local businesses didn't have any idea that it existed. So it came as a big surprise to me a couple years in when we heard from even leaders of some of the local chambers that they were not aware of this. So what sorts of steps have we been taking to do more outreach to our local business community to ensure that they know about the procurement opportunities that we have and the potential preferences that they may be eligible for?
We have we market through Bobbin. We also have our Accessing LA networking events, which due to COVID, our most recent one became an online webinar. And we are also based on your council request, we are working with our public information officer to come up with a specific target education and outreach plan for both the local businesses as well as city department contract administrators to make sure they fully understand how the local business preference ordinance works.
Okay. Very good. Anything else, Mr. Blumenfield? Anything else? No? All right. Thank you. So this is, we're going to note and file this item without objection, and that will bring us to item number 2.
Item 2 is a verbal presentation from the Department of Building and Safety relative to an update on metrics of the Build LA program.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon.
Good. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Banos, and I am the Chief of the Technology Services Bureau in Building and Safety. Thank you for having me here today. I will provide an update on the Build LA project. Building and Safety, as well as other development services departments, have been working together to implement Build LA project with an oversight from the mayor's office. The project is, at this point, is about 50% complete as far as implementation is concerned. We are making great progress over the past 2 years. There are many components to the Build LA project. The biggest and the most challenging piece is the electronic plan check process. What makes it challenging is when the plan needs to be reviewed and approved by the other departments besides Building and Safety. We want to ensure that the departments are reviewing and improving the same set or the same version of the plan that's being submitted by the customer. Besides checking the plan online, the data also has to be stored by each of the departments. Similar to LADBS, all the departments also have a lot of legacy applications which needs to be upgraded or replaced at the same time as the Build LA system is being developed. LADBS launched ePlan LA in November of 2018 with limited application types. Since then, there were additional application types that has been added and made available to the general public for submissions. Today, all applications which do not require the other department's clearance or approval is available online today. As of last month, we have processed over 65,000 applications online. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of submissions online has been increased by about 400%. So for the overall permit that's been issued online has increased from 29.5% to 34.6%. So it went up by about 22% submittal via the website during the pandemic. So the next piece, what we as far as the activities for the Build LA project implementation, we are now working with the fire department to get them on board to be able to allow the submittal online as well, because today it's all paper. So that will help streamline the application process as well. That concludes my verbal report.
Okay, thank you. Well, just on that last point, what are the barriers to ensuring, to moving forward, whether with the fire department or with any of the other departments in digitalizing this so that we aren't dependent?
Okay, so the barrier is more of, getting every department to have a similar process. Because everybody have their own internal workflow, their own internal process, which is different. So it's very difficult to get one system to accommodate those multiple processes. And to make it more complicated, today in the paper, the customer can parallelly submit multiple sets of plans to multiple departments to get their review concurrently to help, shorten the overall timeline. But when we automate the system, if we were to do it that way, it's even more complicated. to have everyone looking at a different plan set, and then it will approve at the end of the day one plan set. That's what it's just for very difficult and challenging. That's the hurdle we're trying to overcome. And we have actually last month engaged Gartner Group to come in to help us to look at the process and the system to see how we can get over that challenge, that obstacle, to help expedite the implementation of the system.
Okay. All right, Mr. Momenfield?
Yeah, thank you. I don't quite understand that last point. You're saying it's more difficult it takes longer if you submit the stuff online to do things, or it's more difficult to do things simultaneously when they're online versus when they're submitted on paper?
Yeah, and that's where the challenge, the difficulty, the complexity of the system to automate that piece, because there are multiple, today, they can submit different plans to different departments. We do not really have a way to reconcile or compare those different plan checks by each of the departments.
But but that still doesn't make sense. So why is it harder? I mean, you would think at the very least it's the same, but why is it harder if you're submitting online versus, is it because you have to go through the portal that makes it more difficult?
Yes, it's more difficult to go through the portal, where if we do not need to verify and confirm that everybody is stamping the same plan, then it's not that more difficult than the paper process. Because we're trying to improve our efficiency as well as improve certain validations where we do not have in the current process.
Well, I mean, that's kind of maddening to think that we're actually disadvantaging people who are going online. Should we force departments to standardize the procedures, or create a program that does this?
I would say that will help. If we can standardize and have a more unified process across the board, it will help a lot.
So what does it take to do that? What do you need from us to do that?
I would say let me go back and look at. We'll wait for the Gartner's assessments report that was supposed to provide us some kind of recommendations, and we can go from there.
Okay, because I'm very much interested in doing that.
Okay.
I'm exceedingly frustrated that with everything we've been doing, that it's still more difficult, and it takes that it's harder to do things simultaneously when you submit it online than when you submit it via paper. I mean, at that point, they ought to at least be able to just submit a PDF of whatever paper they have and submit that online. Yeah. Which is not a portal system, but is better than actually physically moving paper around. I mean, can we offer that as an interim option?
Yes, we're working on that as we speak. Yes. So by the end of September, fire departments will be able to accept electronic plan, and we'll do that process you just described as an interim.
You mean the PDF versus the portal? Because I kind of get it with the portal that you have to have enough, specialized entry points to, or things. Although honestly, I don't get that either. I mean, there's so many other things in the real world that are out there that are specialized, that are standardized. I don't understand it. I don't know why this is so hard. And I say that not fully aware of my ignorance, and I'm not the one who's trying to put it together, but I'm just frustrated that it's taking so long, and that we can't move to a portal system where people can do this right off. Now, you're saying September. I mean, obviously that's around the corner, so that's positive. But
yes.
Is it only for the interim step, or is it for the actual portal?
So, by September, fire department will be able to allow the customer to submit the application online.
As a PDF or through a standardized portal?
It will be through a PDF. But they will be able to mark up using a special tool called Bluebeam and be able to send back the correction to the customer via electronic form.
I mean, just basically by writing on it, electronically, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I've got programs on my iPad that can do that. All right, and so that's the PDF version. And when will we have the standardized portal? You have to wait for the report to come back?
Yeah, we're waiting for Gartner's assessment. They will provide their recommendation how we can fast track the process. And if there's a room, if they recommend, one of their recommendation is to help standardize the process, and we'll come back to this body to help. We will need your, support to help move it forward. If it comes to that point.
When does that happen?
We are supposed to get the report by the end of this month.
Okay. All right, I guess that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Bloomfield. I share your thoughts and your concerns and your interest in fixing it. So hopefully once we get those recommendations back, we can get to work and doing that together. I welcome the chance. Okay, thank you very much. So we are receiving and filing that report, and is that right?
Mr. Chair, that is a verbal report, so no action is necessary.
Okay, very good. Then we'll go ahead and move forward with item number 3 then, please.
Item number 3, verbal presentation from the Economic and Workforce Development Department relative to the department's COVID-19 related response efforts.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Blumenfield, Daisy Hernandez from the Economic and Workforce Development Department. Good afternoon. I'm here with my colleague, Jackie Rodriguez, and we are here to provide you with a verbal update on the efforts that our department has been implementing to help businesses in the city in advancement of the approved jobs plan, and also, of course, COVID-19 related efforts. As you know, the mission of our department has always been to promote economic activity and create jobs in the city. Our role has become essential in helping businesses struggling due to the current pandemic. During this unprecedented situation, EWDD remains focused on helping as many businesses as possible keep their doors open, not only through financial assistance, but also through services and technical assistance to ensure the resiliency and sustainability of the business community. I would like to start by providing you with an update on our business response unit. The City Council, through this ad hoc committee, authorized the creation of the BRU to promote support and assistance to business owners that need help navigating through the requirements and processes of the various city departments, and also to connect business owners with services and resources that may be available. Since the inception of the BRU in April 2018, we have helped nearly 800 businesses. We have seen a spike in requests for assistance since COVID hit, and we estimate that about 50% of the requests that we're getting now and since March are the requests are COVID related. Now, the last BRU metrics report we submitted to you covered our accomplishments for the period between April and September 2019, and we are working on the next update report to provide the current metrics. And we anticipate presenting this report to the committee at the next meeting. Now, Jackie will provide you with an update on our business source centers.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jackie Rodriguez. The business source centers provide an array of services to new and existing business owners that focus on job creation and job retention. Since March, the business source centers have been extremely busy assisting businesses with loan applications, grant applications, and assisting them with all the financial materials that are needed for these applications. They have focused on not only the EILD, the PPP, our emergency loan program, but also non-traditional loan programs, as well as others that are being offered, including the iBank, etc. Recently, we've felt the need for there is a need for an effective digital platform to host webinars, trainings for businesses that are open in different hours that need access to this information. There will be a need for reopening procedures and restructuring their business in light of COVID. We will also, by the end of this year, be procuring our business source centers with the redesign of these centers. We're planning to release that hopefully later on this year. The redesign will meet with the evolving demands of the businesses, enhancing services that would lead to sustainability, expansion, and retention of local businesses. This new RFP will require partnerships, leveraging resources and business metrics to increase the level of service. Another project that we have been working on in the business advancement team is the Jedi Zones. In March of this year, which seems so far away now, there was 6 motions introduced that contained 9 different areas for Jedi Zones. EWDD has contracted with various platforms to gain access to geospatial data required for the preliminary and secondary needs for the criteria for the Jedis. And we've also worked with the Development Services Division to have a referral system for them to access these incentives for services. We've also have procedures to evaluate the proposed Jedi Zones, creating a standardized form to record assessments, as well as drafting marketing brochures and instructions that will be utilized throughout the Jedi Zones. We will be modifying these marketing efforts to add post-COVID or recovery information. And now Daisy will update on the current known programs that we have in the department. Daisy, you're still mute.
As we all know too well, COVID-19 is having a tremendous negative impact on businesses and the economy. In an effort to address this impact, the mayor and city council swiftly moved to approve $11 million in funding to establish the Small Business Emergency Microloan Program. The program provides loans between $5,000 and $20,000 with favorable terms, offering 0% or 3% for up to 5 years, with repayment deferred up to 12 months. Now, there has been an overwhelming demand for the program. To date, we have received over 4,800 applications, and these applications are at various stages of review. We have approved over 900 loans so far and funded 470, totaling about $6.6 million that has gone out the door to businesses that need the assistance. We continue to review and approve applications every day, and our staff is working diligently to get these funds out to the businesses in the community. Now, another important effort being carried out is the COVID Regional Fund. This is a city-county effort that's in partnership with institutional and corporate partners. This fund assists micro entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits that have been impacted by the pandemic. The fund will deploy $3 million in grants ranging from $5,000 to $15,000 over the course of 4 months through 6 rounds of funding. Grant winners are chosen through an online weighted lottery system. So certain businesses have a better chance of being selected based on this weighted lottery system. The businesses that have a higher opportunity to get selected are those that are located in low and moderate income census tracts, those businesses that are veteran owned, and small businesses and nonprofits with less than $500,000 in annual revenues. So far, there has been 3 rounds of funding, and there has been 125 grant winners in our city, representing about 40% of those businesses selected through the lottery system. We want to point out that an important component to help struggling businesses recover and stabilize is providing technical assistance to them on how to become resilient and sustainable post-COVID. Businesses need help with reopening protocols that are specific to their industry, They need help assessing their business model to determine how they may need to adapt or reinvent themselves to a new way of conducting business. Earlier, you heard a presentation from BCA about the Local Business Preference Program. I want to point out that through technical assistance, we have been and will continue to train businesses on the certification process to be able to compete for government contracts and fully take advantage of the Local Business Preference Program that's in the works. We are grateful for the technical assistance set-aside funds that we got and that was made possible by the support of City Council to provide the much-needed technical assistance. Through this set-aside, we have conducted a series of webinars to provide help and resources to businesses. For the next 6 to 12 months, we will continue with this effort to help businesses keep their doors open. To that end, we are currently working with the county to select, through a request for proposals process, additional technical assistance providers that will focus on helping businesses on their way to recovery. You know, they say, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. Through technical assistance, that's what we're doing. We will continue to teach businesses to fish to become sustainable after COVID. Now, I'm going to turn it back to Jackie so she can provide an update on the food and beverage working group.
Jackie, you're muted.
Hi, thank you.
There we
sorry.
go. It's okay.
So most recently, EWDD was instructed to consult with food beverage industry representatives, the Small Business Commission, the city departments, and others to develop low-cost or no-cost recommendations to streamline the city's processes for various departments. We have conducted roughly 28 working group meetings, including different sidebars with departments individually and also collectively to see how we can achieve this goal. The final report has been completed. It is being routed to participating departments as well as our executive management. As soon as that process is done, it will be submitted to City Council and the Mayor's Office for review and hopefully approval of some of the recommendations. Finally, I would like to talk about the Small Business Commission. So the Small Business Commission that started in November, I think has been more active in COVID than it was pre-COVID. We've had about 3 to 4 meetings on different programs, the loan programs that we offer, what is available for businesses. Then we also met on the food and beverage working group. 3 of our commissioners actually sat on that working group. And finally, we've begun working on the commissioner's work plan. We've had very interesting conversations with the commissioners on how do we help small businesses now, in the future. How do we teach them to pivot on, if one thing that this pandemic has taught us is that we need to be kind of like our head on a swivel, just to be able to pivot to the different market needs. They will continue to work on the work plan, hopefully finalizing within the next month. And this work plan will guide them for the next year or two. They have short-term and long-term goals, and we will continue to meet. I know that this commission, I believe, should meet 4 times a year. However, that will not be the case this year because they are actively participating in the role of small businesses in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you. And now I believe we can open it up for questions.
Terrific. Well, that's great news about the Small Business Commission. I'm glad that they are jumping in with both feet. That was certainly our hope, and I'm glad to see they're taking such an assertive role right now more than ever. Mr. Blumenfield? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. Appreciate the report. A lot of different subjects, and just to take one of the last ones first, and the food and beverage. I had that motion about consulting on that, and I think you guys are moving forward well, and I want to give Vanessa Willis some props for that. She's been taking the lead on that. Really important. I did want to ask about, when we talked about all the different technical assistance programs, I always, and I've held that the most important thing we can be doing right now is leveraging the federal dollars, because it's more money than we've ever seen come through this area. $650 billion, and with the new bill, it'll probably be even more. So even if we could, if our efforts could get 0.5% more of that money, that would dwarf everything else that we're doing in terms of dollars and cents. That would be in the billion category for businesses versus the $11 million microloan category that's our big program. So how much are we spending? I know I had the motion to set aside $300,000, but how are we doing on that aspect of it in terms of positioning our businesses to just be slightly better, able to leverage those federal dollars? How much are we spending, and what are we actually doing on that front?
Thank you, Council Member. With the set aside, the $300,000 set aside, we were able to enter into a contract with the LA Chamber, and they provided a series of technical assistance webinars that assisted different businesses throughout the city. We've requested a report with final numbers from the LA Chamber, and we will report that when we bring forth the official transmittal to report back on our activity. But we still have a balance, Ronnie. As you know, it's a limited resource, so we're being very careful as to how we're using it. We definitely want to have plans of allocating this, continue to provide technical assistance, allocating this set-aside money for that purpose, especially on the recovery side. We were helping businesses originally to apply for money. Now we need to help them on, how do you stay open? How do you recover? How do you continue and become sustainable? So the second phase of technical assistance, and the balance of the money that's in the set-aside fund is for the purpose.
Is there enough I've got a mind to just take every dollar we have and put it toward this. That would obviously is probably not realistic, but are we off in our priorities? Should we be spending more money on on leveraging the federal money than all of our other programs? Or is this the right mix?
I think we need to have a balance of the services and programs that we have. Having technical assistance is definitely critical, but we also need to have that access to capital that will help the businesses get back into what they do best, right? Running their business. So we can provide both. And I think right now we have that good balance. Of course, we would always welcome additional funding for both the technical assistance side and for the access to capital. But definitely I would recommend that we continue having both programs and services available and not taking from one to fund the other.
Yeah, I agree with Daisy that the critical mix is going to be needed with recovery. So right now, businesses that are getting the loans are in the process of saving their business. Then they need to have the technical assistance to actually recover and go forth and stay in business post COVID. So I echo what Daisy said before.
And when we say technical assistance, we're talking about a lot of different things, because you mentioned a lot of technical assistance in terms of resiliency and all of these other things. I was kind of specifically honing in on the assistance to get the federal money, to apply for and get capital from the feds.
Right. So we're already definitely doing that through our business source centers. Our centers have done a tremendous job in helping businesses apply for the different sources of money for the different programs. We're also working together with LAEDC. We have a contract with them to help us also provide that additional technical assistance. More specifically, we're helping a lot of the businesses that didn't qualify for our loan program. We're referring them to LAEDC for technical assistance so they can try to apply for other resources. So we are, again, finding that balance of the different services and programs that the businesses need to get through this pandemic.
Okay. I mean, I just my gut is just that there's all that federal money on the table, and I don't want to leave a drop of it because that's so much bigger. I guess I'll ask a non-related question to that, but the Jedi Zones, when will EWDD be making the recommendations regarding the Jedi Zones? Are they all moving forward?
We will be reporting on that. Yes, they're moving forward. We're waiting for one piece of data, which is the crime data. We've just contracted with My Sidewalk, and we are also working with ITA to be able to map the crime data on a census block level. We do have like the crime stats from LAPD, but we need that mapped and be able to aggregate that for the different Jedi zones that are available. That, and we also need to do a visual inspection of the actual businesses so that we can assess what type of businesses are in each zone, what is the need for either facade improvement or marketing, etc. So we'll be finalizing those reports. Vanessa Willis, who was working on the food and beverage, is also heading the Jedi Zones. So she has now pivoted back to the Jedi Zones to finalize those reports.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to double down a little bit on Mr. Blumenfield's comments about federal money. And I think particularly, and I appreciate the comments that you both made about the needs that businesses are facing right now to prepare for reopening and how to do that in a safe way, how to do that in a way that's compliant with the rapidly changing series of executive orders and other laws and public health guidance and consumer reaction and everything else. This is going to be the next big key thing to our economic recovery, getting that part right and being able to rebuild the confidence of the public that they can patronize businesses again in a safe way. So that it's a critical thing. And I recognize that there are definite capacity limitations that EWDD faces right now. And at the same time, we're sitting on several $100 million in federal support that needs to be directed towards COVID response right now. And I can't think, to Ms. Hernandez's point about teaching a person to fish rather than giving them a fish. To me, this is one of the best ways, one of the best investments we can possibly make of that money to uplift underserved communities, to create economic opportunity for all Angelenos, is to support small businesses in getting back up and running. So I agree with everything Mr. Blumenfield said about technical assistance regarding federal aid, but in addition to that, we already have a big bucket of federal aid that's waiting to be spent. And so I would highly urge you to come up with some specific proposals and budgetary requests that you may have to maximize our ability to reach out to the entire business community of Los Angeles in a multilingual, multicultural way in order to ensure that they're able to get it back up and running and have sustainability and are able to get going again, and do that essentially immediately so that the council and the COVID relief ad hoc committee can hopefully move on that and try to get some of that money appropriated and spent before the end of the year. That would be my strong request. Related to that, as I alluded to on an earlier agenda item, one of the EWDD and our business source centers have done terrific job of, trying to manage these programs and get as much awareness as we can out there in the business community. But we all know that, particularly among small businesses, entrepreneurs and small business people are spending every waking hour tending to the needs of their business and not focusing on what government programs might be available to them. So I'd like to know what ability do we have to be more proactive about notifying businesses rather than waiting for them to approach a business source center for help or something like that. How are we getting the word out about these sorts of support programs, the loan program, the other things, both in the COVID era and more generally, to the vast majority of businesses that have essentially no interaction with any city agency other than when they, mail in their business tax? How are we reaching them, and what more do you need to be able to be more effective in reaching out to them?
I agree with you, and I also agree with you with the multilingual, multicultural marketing that is needed. One of the things that we have done in the department is partner up with different city departments to get the word out. For example, for the LA COVID Fund, we sent it out not only to our elected officials, but all of the CBOs that we work with across the board, not only our business source centers, our work source centers, our family source centers, across the board to see, this is what's available. One of the things that, you're right, small businesses, one of the things that they lack is sometimes the financial information or that is needed to apply for the SBA, etc. One of the things that could be helpful is more marketing targeted to specific businesses in areas, maybe radio. We can come up with different ideas that are more specific versus just kind of coming off the top of my head. We can come back to you promptly with different type of options that are available to reach the different businesses in the city of Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'd really welcome that, and especially right now, because as Mr. Blumenfield pointed out, this is a rare opportunity that we have to really strike while the iron's hot and turn this crisis that we're facing into an opportunity for our business community by reaching into those federal resources and capitalizing on them. It's just critically important. I'm sorry, Ms. Hernandez, I cut you off.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out that before COVID, we were very involved. We were out at every community event. We wanted to be out there in the community so we could promote the programs and make sure that people knew about our programs. Of course, COVID has made that a little bit more difficult, but we do continue to participate in online forums. We definitely are working closely with council offices to be able to promote the programs and assistance that we can provide, and I think we need to build on that, continue and work with your offices to get to the constituents. We're also working with community organizations, with the chambers, definitely, and with other organizations out there that are helping us keep the word out. I know we need to do a better job, and like Jackie said, we'll come up with a marketing plan, an outreach plan for that purpose, and we can just report back on that at a later time.
Terrific. That'd be great. And let me just ask you really what I'm certain is an overly simplistic question, but do you have the capacity through finance, for example, to send an email to every business that has a BTRC in Los Angeles?
The Office of Finance has that capacity. We can't, I don't think they can share that email information. But right now it is, I would never speak for that department, but it is the perfect timing because they're going to be sending out reminders for the BTRC renewal.
Exactly. And I know that they protect that information and the privacy of that information zealously. I get that. But so does the DWP. And yet we send messages out with DWP mailings, all the time. It's really expensive to do when you send a mail, something out in a mailed DWP bill. But for years, it has frustrated me that we aren't sending a weekly email to every business in Los Angeles saying, we're so glad you're doing business in Los Angeles. Here's some things that we can do for you. I'm oversimplifying that, but you get the concept.
Correct.
Finance, it's not within finance's scope of work to do that sort of thing, but they have the information. It is in your scope of work, but you don't have the information. If there's some way that we can marry those two things up, it's keystrokes. It costs no money other than the one person who's really skilled at marketing to lay it out. But I feel like we're missing an opportunity to keep people informed. And if in the future we make submitting an email a necessary prerequisite for getting a BTRC, then we know that every single business can be reached with a few keystrokes. So
we can reach out to Office. We can reach out to Office of Finance to see how we have talked to them before. We do. I will not minimize the involvement between our department and Office of Finance. We work hand in hand, and they are instrumental, especially for the business response unit, in helping us help the businesses. We can definitely reach out to them to see how that's possible, especially right now that they're planning for that large mailing.
Right.
I think this is the perfect timing.
I agree, and no, I don't. I agree. They are terrific in doing that. I just think that a regular marketing strategy to our businesses in Los Angeles, especially the small businesses, utilizing the tools that we have available to us, the data that we have available to us from different departments, it's just really key. And I don't feel like that's been consolidated in any way. It's more scattershot. It's the sorts of things that Ms. Hernandez described about going out to events and working with the chambers and our council offices. We all do it, but to be able, and all of that is critical. But in addition to that, to be able to do one regular unified communication out to the entire business community at once, I think is going to pay a lot of dividends for businesses.
Can I jump on that for a second?
Yes, please.
Just not to lose it. When does their renewal notice go out?
If I'm not mistaken, it goes out in December.
Okay. They may need something from us, a direction, because it will cost them marginally more to have this information in that renewal notice. So I guess what I'd like to ask you, I think it's critical that we have this information in that renewal notice. That's a concrete time for us to add that in. And you can talk to them and they may be able to just do it, no problem. But if there is any problem, we need you to come back to us, because this is a city matter, and maybe it's a matter of doing a formal motion from the city to make it easier for them to do it, whether that means a little extra money or whether that means just a formal direction. We do this with DWP. When we want them to have something in their mailers, it often requires us passing a motion. And I don't want to lose the opportunity. If there are a number of barriers that are out there, I want us to have the opportunity as a council to weigh in. So can I ask you to make sure that you report back to us with plenty of time before the mailer goes out, so that, of the status of this and what you might need from us, if anything, to make it happen.
Okay, we will do.
Will do.
And I will even say, beyond reporting back, I share Mr. Blumenfield's sense of urgency, and I would suggest that we go ahead and initiate a motion pushing in that direction. And if the offices are already doing it, terrific. But just to avoid wasting time, with reports back to this committee, certainly I don't want to wait for that. I think we should just get going on it. So our staffs, Mr. Bloomfield, our staffs, I think, can work with EWDD to get this going right now, and I think that's a great idea. Somewhat related to that is this conversation has been more about outreach to the business community of Los Angeles. We have a number of things that we've talked about today and more generally that are resources that are available to businesses here in LA. Who is doing the marketing of those things outside of Los Angeles to attract new businesses to come into LA? Years ago, under Mayor Reardon, there was the mayor's business team, which did lots of proactive solicitation of businesses outside of Los Angeles to come in. And we have a lot of good things to talk about that, if we market LA properly outside of Los Angeles, that would be of interest to potential businesses. Who is coordinating that effort for the city?
The effort is still being coordinated by the mayor's office. And of course, they bring us in as needed when they need our assistance or they need EWDD's involvement. But for the most part, it is the mayor's office.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Blumenfield, while I'm checking my notes, anything else? Sorry. One thought I had also is right now all businesses and all of our human endeavors, it seems like, are distanced and digital, and so what steps are we taking to assist those businesses that maybe don't have the technological expertise, or they don't have high-speed internet access? How are we helping our business community to get to succeed in this distanced digital world that we're now living in?
That's a great point, Mr. Chair. As part of our loan program, we do the eligible use of funds is to pay for any adaptive resources that the businesses may need in order to operate in our new reality, right? So if they do need, let's say that we are paying for or helping them pay through the loan program access to internet and to high-speed internet and any other technology that they may need. So that's eligible. And again, going back to how important technical assistance is, we are that's part of the technical assistance that we are currently providing. We're assessing the needs of the business as it pertains on how they need to adapt to how they need to conduct business now, including resources to technology. So again, I want to stress again how important technical assistance is as a component of the services we provide.
There's also room to expand on that for the multilingual. That is something that is also needed. We have business owners that maybe English is not their first language, so we need to learn we need to teach them how to navigate through, advertising on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is that, depending on their business, on how to conduct that, how to increase their web page presence, how to update their web page. So it's not just teaching them, oh, here's a web page, great. It's like, how do you update it? If you're going to sell merchandise, how do you track that? That is something that is probably going to be included in that report back of services that is needed. Is more of that type of information and technical assistance.
And as we work through to add to what Jackie just said, as we work through the assessing the business source centers and how we need to reposition the services that are provided, this is definitely something that's going to be in the forefront as we again reassess how we're operating the business source centers.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask, since you're, as I understand it, anticipating releasing new RFPs for contractors through the business source centers. Are these the sorts of things that you're going to include in an updated RFP, that these sorts of capabilities and knowledge sets?
Absolutely.
Yes, totally. And so just so you know, we started working on this RFP and reassessing of the program before COVID. It's a whole different world now. So yes, absolutely. We are now taking COVID and the needs of the businesses because of COVID into consideration as we redesign the whole business source system.
Okay. Great. Mr. Blumenfield, anything else? No. Okay. So is any action required on this report? It's verbal only, I think, right?
Yeah, this is also a verbal discussion.
Okay. All right, so we don't need to take any action then. Is there any other business before the committee?
No, the desk is clear.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate your being with us, and thank you for your continuing great work in helping LA get through this time and getting back on its feet. Appreciate it very much. With that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.